A very good morning to everyone. As we continue to have more students in campus, we are ensuring that a conducive learning environment is maintained for them to learn and grow. Children are enjoying their time with their peers, participating in the various activities and lessons, interacting with their teachers and friends in person and online. We would like to welcome all students on campus once complete face-to-face learning commences. We urge all parents to keep the children at home in case they are unwell and test them if there are COVID-related symptoms. This will ensure the health and safety of everyone around them. The past week, grades 1 to 10 continued with their learning. Teachers taught new concepts, revisited topics as and when needed, and children enhanced their skills through activities and games. Let's hear what the teachers and students have to say.
In grade 1, we focused on enhancing the exploration and speaking skills of the learners. In mathematics, students of grade 1 learned about data handling. The students were engaged in different hands-on activities that helped them to collect, record, and interpret data using pictograph. The students were so excited to create their own pictograph. These activities helped the students to develop skills related to data handling, such as collecting, recording, and analyzing data. In English, the students of grade 1 learned how they can make their sentences more creative and interesting using adjectives. Students were engaged in speaking activity where they spoke about their favorite toy or things using different adjectives. These activities help students to enhance their vocabulary and speaking skills. In science, the students learned about force. Grade 1 students explored force by pushing the ball harder each time and recorded their observation in the bottle bowling game. In UAE SST, the students were able to identify souks, bakalas, supermarkets, and malls. They understood about the traditional markets in the UAE and how trade is important to the people in the UAE. Students discussed and shared how the markets of the UAE were in the past and the present.
We never forget what we learn in a fun way. As rightly said, if a child cannot learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. And with this, another fun-filled week of learning ends. Students with their inventive thinking and creative skill did a number of activities in grade 2. In English, preposition was taught in a very interesting way. Our little ambassadors enjoyed doing the role play using the Simon Says activity. In science, our enthusiastic learners were engaged in a hands-on activity where they created their own rock in a cup. What a fun and a neat way to make science alive, isn't it? In maths, students could recognize the currency of the UAE. They used their knowledge and understanding to choose the correct combination of notes to show different values. Using the tuck shop activity, they purchased different items using different denominations. In UAE SST, our little ambassadors learned about the differences between the schools in the past and the schools in the present. They explored how technology have changed the way people learn.
During this week, we learned a lesson about trucks. It was very interesting. We came to know about different types of rocks and their properties. I was surprised to know that the kitchen cabinet where my mom works is made of rock. It's called granite.
Science experiments are usually basic, but they can help spark a love of science and discovery in a child that will follow them throughout their life. The simple science experiment that a child does today may trigger their desire to discover something that will change the world in the future. Inspiring a love of science from a young age is so important. Human curiosity is a natural trait and one that is a huge part of scientific development. The great thing is, children have this in abundance. This week, in science, grade 5 students performed an experiment on the topic air and water, where students discovered the properties of air as well as students understood the concept of separation of insoluble substances.
Science encourages me to question, experiment, take risks, and more importantly, to observe the natural world we live in. This week in grade 5, we studied the topic air and water, in which we performed a few activities to understand the properties of air. Air occupies space. Air exerts pressure and so on. It was indeed a fun learning experience to learn more about the properties of air.
Sometimes a quick science experiment can shed light on an important connection that we have taken for granted or perhaps never even thought about. We also carried out an activity to understand the separation of insoluble impurities from water, in which we performed the filtration process as well as the sedimentation and decantation process. I surely understood the concept of separation of insoluble impurities well.
Hands-on laboratory science experiments are critical to the learning process across all areas of studies. It is proven that students who engage in well-designed laboratory equipments develop problem-solving and critical thinking skills as well as gain exposure to materials, equipment and reaction in a lab setting. During this week, students of grade 5 were engaged in developing their observation and investigation skill through experimenting the properties of air and separation of insoluble substances. Frictional force and the factors affecting it were investigated by linking it with the MAC by grade 4. Students experimented how different surface affecting the motion of the object, while in grade 3, students performed an activity to understand the process of evaporation and condensation.
That's all for this week. Wash your hands, stay home if sick, cover your nose and mouth. We're all in this together and we will get through this together. Thank you and have a great day.